I found myself in a bit of a pickle recently where I created this shader that works perfectly well in 2D. When you have a Sprite2D, you can just grab a new material over here in the editor pane, add the shader, and you can play with any shader parameters you want. As you can see here, I have this nifty outline shader. Stay tuned. I'm going to post a video on how this works in the next couple of days. But the problem is, you'd think you'd be able to do the exact same thing with either a Sprite3D or an AnimatedSprite3D, which you can do on AnimatedSprite2D as well. But turns out when you go over to the Sprite3D, AnimatedSprite3D, there's nothing here. There's no way to actually set materials. There's no way to set shaders. But I found a quick nifty workaround where you can actually set it as long as you use a Sprite3D in code. And to boot, you can have your cake and you can eat it too. As long as you use the animation player with a Sprite3D, you'll be able to have fluid animations the same way as with an animated Sprite3D, and you'll be able to use my little code trick in order to stick those shaders onto it. Really quickly here, I'm going to show you guys, in case you've never seen it before, I'm going to show you how to actually create an animation on a Sprite3D using an animation player. So we're going to, as long as you have an animation player added, you can go down here into the animation tab. And if you click here on this animation button, you can make a new animation. I'm just going to call it moving. And then we can go up into the Sprite3D. And over here, you can see that it's added these little key icons. This is for adding keyframes, keys for keyframes. And you're going to find in the animation tab, you're going to select the first frame that you want. You're going to make sure that you're at 0 time here, and you're going to insert a keyframe. It's going to ask you if you want to make a reset track. This is a thing that animation players do, is for basically transitioning between different animations. In case you ever want to do so through code, go ahead and create that. And now you can just continue to press the keyframe. It's going to increment and go up in a frame every time you press it. And you can just go through all of the frames that you want. In this case, I want 6 frames. I'm going to set the time to be 0.6. And now if you hit repeating, you can press this play button and you can see the little jank example moving animation that I'm going to use for the demonstration. So go ahead and make yourself a new script. As long as it extends Sprite3D, we'll be able to stick it onto our Sprite3D nodes. I gave it a class name. You don't necessarily have to. And then at the top here, first thing we're going to do is we're going to reference the shader script that you actually want to use. You can export this. In my case, it's always going to be the same, so I left it unexported. And then here, as you saw me messing with a couple of shader parameters, namely the outline color and the outline weight. I want those exported, so I export them at the top here. And then finally, we're going to get into the actual meat, the functions that are going to apply the shader. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a new shader material. And we're going to apply the shader that we grabbed, the one that we referenced with the path. We're going to load it and we're going to apply it to the shader material as the shader. And here's the meat of the trick, is that we're going to set the shader material that we just made to the material override of the sprite. So although we can't set a direct material on the sprite in the same way that you can do elsewhere, you can override the material here through code. Now that we've set up our material override, the only thing left in this function is to add in the 2 shader parameters that we defined up here. This is where we're actually going to set them. In this case, we're only going to set them 1 time because these are constant. I'll show you how to do things that change in a second. But here we're setting the outline color via the set shader parameter, and the same thing with the line weight. You can see the reason why this is called outline line weight is because of this variable. The reason why this is called line weight is just because of the way that I named it here in the shader. So the inside the quotation marks is going to be the name of the shader variable. Here is just the reference to the actual variable we have in the script. And the second function that we need here is called the apply texture function. In this case, this is because the only thing that we're applying every single frame is the texture. This is the second half of the meat of the trick. Basically, this is how we get the animation player to do all of the work for us. It automatically updates the texture, crops, sets the UVs, everything that you needed to do in order to change the sprite's texture every frame. So in the ready function, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to actually create and apply our material override. That's the first function that we created here. And then not only are we going to call the apply function on the first frame, which is going to, for the first frame, set the texture, basically setting up the sprite to work, but we are also going to leverage the texture changed signal, which exists on Sprite3Ds, and we're going to connect our apply texture to get called every single time that the texture changes. So basically what this means is that the animation player, which is changing the texture every time you update the frame of your animation, it's going to then also call this function, which is going to update the texture in the shader so that the shader is going to be able to use the updated frame of animation. Isn't that neat? So now finally we can see the fruits of our labor because we have here on the sprite, we have the script that we just wrote. If we actually play the game, you can see it pops up here and voila, beautiful. Let me make it full screen so you can see a little bit better. You can see the outline shader that I showed you at the beginning applied to our animated sprite and updating automatically as the sprite runs around. And you can see here, I can make this line width a little bit bigger. I can change it to pink. And when we hit play, automatically you can see those changes are reflected in the code. So I hope that you found this useful. I hope that you now see that there is in fact a way that you can apply shaders to your animated sprites, even in 3D. If you found this useful, throw me a like, give me a subscribe, and stay tuned if you're interested in this specific shader, the outline shader that you can use in both 2D and 3D. I'll have a video up in a couple of days. If you're watching this when it's already out, I'll have a card here that you can click on. And in addition, I stream here on YouTube and on twitch.tv/FebAbetter, shameless plug. Come watch me if you're interested in Godot and video games. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye!